Hey everybody, thanks for coming here after lunch. And this is the HaaHa show. I'm Scott Ha.
I'm Phil Ha.
And in this little episode of the HaaHa show, I will be the white hat.
And I'll be the black hat. So.
It's Fox Sports.
In Espanol.
That was the best you could do. You couldn't get like a 10-gallon black hat. You got a Fox Sports.
This is all I had in my closet.
It's the only black hat that you had. All right, well, still good effort, and I appreciate that. All right, so the idea here is that I'm going to be just doing some ASP.NET MVC applications, and I'll be doing them in the way that I've kind of always done them. And you know, they're not particularly complicated or interesting, but I do some pretty creative things, and then Phil will try to attack those sites, and we'll go back and forth, and we'll see how much that I can learn and whether I can handle the hack.
Yeah. So
all
switch
right.
to you.
So we'll switch over to my machine.
Oh.
Wow. Cool. So this is Nerd Dinner, which is the only sample that I know. I don't actually know how to code. I only know how to show the Nerd Dinner demo. And we'll fire this guy up. And this is my opportunity, I think, to monetize on the massive Nerd Dinner craze, the dozen of people who have chosen to host their dinners on our site. So I'm going to implement an upgrade technique, because this is how I'm going to make my big money. It's the next Flickr. So I will go ahead and log in here to Nerd Dinner, and we have a coupon code choice. And I think as a developer, I'm going to go over here and look at adding upgrade. I'm going to put in a coupon code for upgrade, and I'll store it in view data. And then we'll just do some cool jQuery stuff, because we saw jQuery in the presentation. It's the new hotness, in case you hadn't heard. And then I'm going to go and do this kind of cool animation to show the coupon code that I'll pull out. And then I'll go around on Twitter and I'll promote the site by passing in, coupon code equals, whatever. I'll have some cool coupon codes. And then people will arrive at this site and they'll see like coupon code foo, or you are awesome coupon code, right? So it's kind of nice, it's jQuery and everything. And then they'll go and they'll type in their name and their last name and then their credit number, and then I'll take their credit card number. Step 2, profit.
Yeah, go ahead and submit it.
Okay. What is my credit card number? I think it's 111-4111-1111-1112. All right, and then I'll implement it from there. At that point, it's just kind of an implementation detail.
Mm-hmm.
And then.
No. So now I'm going to look at this. So I'm wearing the black hat to signify that I'm the hacker, and I also got this. I got in some email, or I heard about this coupon for Nerd Dinner. So I went to the site here, as you can see, and I thought, I'm going to view source. I'm curious about. Anytime I see input coming in from a URL or from a forum post, I think, oh, that's interesting. Let's see how they're using that input. And what I notice here is that input appears to be just directly output right in there in the thing. So I might do a little test here. I might say, well, he's assigning this coupon code to this variable.
JavaScript.
So let's see if we can inject something in there. So I might do something like.
What's that? Let's inject something. What are you talking?
So what I'm going to do is, if you're taking that query string parameter and directly outputting in here,
right,
maybe I can actually close this JavaScript string and insert some of my own code all through the URL. So I'll do something like var x equals test, something like that, something real simple. And we'll view source. And when,
zoom in on that.
Yep. And when I look at this, I can see that, okay, I forgot the semicolon,
okay.
But it looks like he's just taking whatever I put and he's outputting it. So I'm going to have a little fun and send out this spam for, check it out, hamster on a piano, because who can resist that?
I love hamsters on pianos.
So you can imagine this is a mass mailing.
I watch this one all the time, and when my good buddy Phil sends me videos of hamsters on a piano, I just rock out to these. Oh, look, my favorite video. Phil has sent me a link to my favorite video. That is so kind of you, Phil. Thank you.
No problem.
I really appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and click on that hamster on a piano there, and Was I not logged in?
Yeah, I don't think we're logged in.
All right. A lot of these attacks, this is a really interesting thing actually, they count on people being logged in at the time. And the thing is, when you send a lot of spam, you're sending these spams. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Wow, IE. That's really cool.
Shoot.
Maybe we should try this in a lesser browser.
Yeah, why don't you try it in a different browser?
In a different browser,
Yeah.
in a different
Not making a value judgment here.
more. No, man, no. Totally respect to the other browsers. Darn you,
Got to
IE.
give it to the IE team for making these demos much harder to show.
Darn you, IE, and your awesomeness. All right, I'm going to log in into my new browser here. I'll check out my upgrade. I don't know if I trust this browser. All right.
So go ahead and just fill out the form.
Doodle-doodle-doo, doodle-doodle-doo. Right, this works, right? Right, so that's stuff that looks right.
Okay.
I want to see some hamsters.
Now fill it out again. Oops.
What's this? The cat has taken my credit card number, Phil.
Yeah.
And he's taken it and put it on a Mac of some kind, or an older Toshiba.
So can you zoom in on the URL?
So let's go. What's going on here? I've just entered my credit card number, and now suddenly I'm over here. Where's the hamster?
Sorry, man.
That is disrespectful. So how exactly did that? How did that happen?
Let's switch it over to me. Okay, so what what you saw there is that he filled out the form thinking he's submitting it to Nerd Dinner, but what you saw there is that Haack.com is showing off his credit card information. So that means that I have his data. In a real attack, I probably wouldn't show him that, hey, I got your data so you can go change your credit card number. I would just silently post it to my site and then take him back to the form that he was at. But what I did there in that URL, where is it? Let me find my sent items here. I think I just closed it. There we go. So if I highlight this.
You can actually right-click and say copy hyperlink and then put it into Notepad.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. What I did was if you notice here, here's the coupon code equals big discount query string parameter. So I put in a single quote and a semicolon. And what that does is that if you remember the source we were looking at, that ends that string and closes that line of JavaScript. And from that point on, I can insert my own JavaScript. So what I did was I entered document.forms. It's hard to see because this is all URL encoded, but action. So I'm changing the action of the form to post to my site, demo.haack.com, instead of the Nerd Dinner site. And so that's a way that I can steal his data. Now, this is a pretty simple, straightforward attack, but we're going to go back and Scott's going to try to fix this with encoding. So now that I'm kind of getting a sense of maybe I've done something wrong at this point, like I've trusted user data, which we know is deeply not cool. I've also turned off validate input. This is something that people often do for edit forms. They turn off validate input so that people can leave comments on their site and things like that. So I could potentially turn this off. But at the same time, there are times when I might, in fact, want to have validate input off, whether it be on a site basis, a page basis, or in this case, a controller basis, because there's something going on inside of my user input that needs to have the occasional angle bracket. Yep.
The other thing that is not cool is that I'm using this .html. So what is this .html and why is that a bad idea?
Well, in this particular case, what .html does is that it inserts the parameter you pass to it as HTML into the document, into the DOM. And so in this case, since coupon code isn't intended to show HTML, he should probably call the text method instead. However, there are many other situations where you might take user input and put it into HTML, which is sort of the point of this demo.
So I could switch that to text.
Yep.
I could turn back on validate input, at least on a method by method basis, or
So why don't you show the new HTML encoding syntax?
Well, that is another good point, actually. This right here is the way that we do response.write. Right? We say angle bracket, whatever this thing is, %, and we say equals. But in ASP.NET 4, we've taken the equals and we've turned it 90 degrees, like a tiny gate. This is how I remember it. See? It's like an equals, but you're looking at it this way. So that it works for me. Thank you for don't judge, people. Don't judge. What that is
and change this back to HTML. We're going to show another one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that right there is me basically doing this, except it's just a nice syntax for that. And you'll notice if you use ASP.NET MVC2 on .NET 4 that all of your stuff is by default using this syntax.
And one of the changes we made to that HTML encode in ASP.NET 4 is that we now encode single quotes by default. So you might be led into believing that, well, that ought to be a good fix.
Yeah, I mean, I've been encoding the input. I don't think that that's a problem, and I refuse to be bullied by you and your hamster crew. So I'm going to go in here and just make sure it looks good to me. Right.
And try the old link first before we.
Absolutely. So I'm logged in as me, and I'm going to hit upgrade. And I could say, coupon code equals, I don't know, what could I put in something scary? Like could I go like this?
No. Do you have the old email I sent you?
No, but I want to just, I'm like the white hat, right? I'm trying to figure out if I fix this thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I just want to, because I'm feeling pretty confident, right, at this point.
That's exactly what you do.
Yeah. So
okay.
I'm like, yeah, dude, forget you and your hamster, right? I could call the other email if I was really, really scared. I could do this. I'm totally protected, right?
So
I'm going to go to lunch.
Fortunately for me, who is hurting for some money, there's a hack for this. Much like there's an app for everything, there's a hack for everything. So one of the things that this default HTML code syntax doesn't encode is \. Let's
switch over.
So this time around, he's making me do a little bit more work, but I think I'm going to get him. And what I've done here is instead of using a single quote here, you notice that I'm using /x3c there, and I'm using a lot of /x27. What these are hex codes for characters like the single quote and less than and greater than. And what's going to happen here is this attack is actually subtly different from the other one. Whereas the other one, I closed the string and inserted some JavaScript. In this case, because I've noticed that he's actually inserting that string into the DOM, I'm actually creating a script tag through these hex codes, all encoded in this funky manner. And when he calls the HTML method on what I send him, I think it's going to do some interesting things.
So you're dynamically creating a script tag. That's going to do the thing you did before.
And
then do it anyway.
And the key to making it work, it's hard to see here, but I have this defer statement. So that way when he inserts it into the HTML, the script has a defer tag which says, you know what, run this script when the page is done loading. And so at the very end, the script runs and my code runs in the process of his browser.
All right.
So I've sent out another spam mail.
So I'm back from lunch. And my buddy Phil has sent me a really cool video just to ask a ninja, right? And I love ninjas. I love hamsters. I love ninjas. And I love spending time at askaninja.com, and I encourage you to check them out as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this great video that my buddy Phil has sent me. And then, of course, remembering that I'd forgotten to put out my credit card before I will send it flying across the internet without SSL. And the cat has pwned me again. So I, in fact, was not fixed. So wait a second. I'm going to call Microsoft support because this clearly doesn't work. That doesn't work. You've pwned me. Microsoft doesn't have a solution for me. Microsoft, right? Well, in fact, we do have a number of ways to do this, because this is pretty sophisticated, as well as what I'm doing is not exactly the most clever thing. So this is actually an error between the chair and the keyboard. So I'm going to switch over to the web config, and there's a new feature here in ASP.NET MVC, ASP.NET 4, where you can actually take control of that encoding. And there's a library that we've got for just this very reason called the anti-cross-site scripting library. I've added a reference to that. And then I can go and change my HTTP runtime setting in the web and use the encoder. This anti-cross-site scripting encoder lets me take control of what's going on. And we can see that I'm changing how HTML encode itself works for what I want. I can turn the dial up and down. You can do it on any way that you want to, really. Yeah. If there was something else, something specific to my implementation or some new thing that came out after ASP.NET came out, this is how we can take complete control over what's going on. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'll just save this, and I will go back over to my site. And then I'll try to look at the Ninja again. And we'll enter our details. And notice in the, look at that.
There you go.
What's this? This is not trustworthy. I shall not give you my credit card.
Now, there's another fix that you could have done that doesn't rely on the anti-XSS library. So the anti-XSS library is a separate library that you can download. But the issue here is that he's using HTML encoding in this case. And HTML encoding works great when you're dealing with HTML, but in this case he's dealing with JavaScript. So there's no way currently for our syntax to understand the context of what you're encoding. The fact that you're encoding a JavaScript variable as opposed to some HTML. So we do have a method in MVC that you can call called ajax dot, you'll see it. So instead of doing that, do ajax dot.
What is it like? Ajax, it's ajax dot Java capital S. I always forget that string encode.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And Ajax JavaScript encode is like kind of specifically for this reason.
Yes.
Right? The issue here isn't that I should expect this colon to handle it for me, or that I should expect something in webconfig to save me, or that I should expect that I'm actually saying for it to behave this way, right? The code actually runs exactly as I wrote it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm taking user input. There's only so much syntax that we can analyze, but it's the semantics that he's now tunneled. There's no way for the response.write system to realize that this is dangerous. Then I actually give it permission explicitly to output as HTML. And there's no way for jQuery or JavaScript to do that, because by the time coupon code shows up to the HTML method, it's already turned into JavaScript.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. They can't see that. So we can call Ajax JavaScript string encode and acknowledge that we know that this could potentially contain some JavaScript, and we're going to handle that differently. I can go and visit the Ninja again?
Sure.
Is it okay? Just want to see if it still works. Hamster on a piano.
Oh,
Hamster on a piano.
View data as string.
Oh, as string.
So it takes a string, not an object parameter. So he has to cast that to a string.
On a piano. I get to have that song in my head. It's really killing me. I'm thinking I'm going to get Chocolate Rain in my head in a second as well. And there you go. So that does exactly as it should have worked. All right. So now, after 3 attempts, I finally shut you down.
Yes, yes.
But it's probably time for me to get out of the nerd dinner business.
Yes.
Because you keep sticking it to me. Not okay. Not okay, Phil. All right. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to IE. That helpfully tells me that it's not my default browser. And I'm going to get out of nerd dinners because it's just too risky of a business to be involved in. Instead, I'm going to go into banking.
Mm-hmm. Good line to be in.
It is, yeah. And I'm going to visit my new bank because my previous security experience has now qualified me to work for this bank. And I'll go ahead and kind of log in. The bank, of course, helpfully tells me my password, and it's really a customer service issue at that point. And we'll log into the Haack Bank and Casino. I've got, it looks like about $3,000, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer some money. And I'm going to send it to my bookie, who has more money than I do. I wonder how that is working out for him. And I'll hit transfer, and you can see that my balance is adjusted, and my bookie has more money. And we'll go and just take a look at how this works. It's pretty straightforward. We've got a begin form, We've got our text box. Then I've got a drop-down list that expresses the account ID that I'm going to be transferring this particular money to, and then a submit. You know, actually, even the fact that it's an MVC is kind of trivial. It's a very basic two text box. But we do this kind of stuff all the time. Take some input, take action on it, and there you go. So I've got myself a pretty good banking site, and all right, lunchtime.
Did you show them the method that actually does the transfer?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's pretty much rocket science at this point.
The key thing to show is
check the username, right?
Yep.
Check the username because I'm secure.
Yep, and the authorized attribute.
Mm-hmm. And the user identity.name would only be filled out because we've selected authorize on the controller itself. So I'm feeling pretty secure because I basically put a post-it note on this controller to say that none of these things get called unless I'm logged in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go ahead and we grab the account and we make our changes and then we redirect.
Okay.
Works pretty good. Awesome.
Let's switch over to me. So I also have an account at this bank. And one of the things I can do here is I can log in. And let's view source once again.
Control plus.
Control plus. Oh, nice. And what I'm noticing here...
Make a pinching motion while you push Control plus.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if anyone can see that. Okay. So so I log into the banking site and I figure, I'm going to view source and see what they're doing, see what kind of protections that they have in here. And I'm noticing they have these field names, destination account ID, and they have this input amount. And I think to myself, I bet I could create a form that's going to submit these values and transfer money to my account from some account of anyone who clicks on this link. So what I've done is I've created this. I created this page called csurf-mvc.html. Now, Scott's right. I can't do this if I'm not logged in on his account, right? I can't just log into the bank because I don't know his username, I don't know his password. But what if I could get him to submit and transfer money to my account without him actually knowing that he did so, inadvertently transferring money to my account? So what I've done is I've created this page here, and I have this form, and you'll notice here that I have the same field names as the ones I got from viewing source. And then I have a little bit of JavaScript here that's going to submit that form as soon as that JavaScript runs. And so what I want to try to do now is get him to look at this form. So I've sent him an email, and let's switch back.
All right, so my good buddy Phil, who I trust implicitly, right, has sent me this awesome video. I mean, I love Chocolate Rain. If you're not familiar with this guy's work, I would encourage you to rush out and purchase the Chocolate Rain. And I'd love to see it again. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on that. And suddenly, and this is the maybe like a really sound effect. We couldn't afford any sound effects. That's pretty good.
That's
right?
good. That's actually very Hitchcockian.
That was pretty good. Thank you.
You found a good use for that feature.
Thank you. So suddenly I have $1,000 less. I'm looking at my site. I see that I'm on localhost, which is where my bank does all of its work. But seriously though, pretend that that's the bank, right? I see my bank's URL. Everything looks trustworthy. My money is gone.
Yeah. So what happened there is this is an attack that we call cross-site request forgery. It's a form of what we call a confused deputy attack, which is to say that if I can't break into the jail, maybe I can get the deputy to do it by confusing the deputy, and the deputy will do it on my behalf. So in this case, what I've done is Scott's browser is holding on to this credentialed information. So he just happened to be logged in when he clicked his email.
And that may seem unreasonable, but if you realize that you can send spam to hundreds of thousands or millions of people, pick a popular bank, and someone's going to be logged in at that time.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. A lot of these attacks work on scale, right? So I send out 1 million emails. I hope 0.01% even click on it, and I get $1,000 from each of those accounts.
Haven't popular mail sites been hit by bugs like this?
Yeah, this particular attack has hit sites such as Gmail and some major sites. I don't have a list, but
but this is a really common thing because a lot of people keep their browsers open all the time, whether
Yep.
you're doing banking or whether you're logged into any site at all.
Right, or you might be in the middle of banking and you get the email. So what happened was that when I had this JavaScript submit the form to his account, since he was already logged in, his browser's like, well, I'm authenticated. I'll just submit this, send my authentication cookie along, and boom, he's been hacked. So fortunately, there's a way for him to mitigate this.
Yep, I just want to remind people what that looks like. He's made a form. This is a form that I'm trusting implicitly.
Yes.
He's not just, you can't just trust user input. I mean, you can't trust anything. So I have no way at this point to determine that a form even was posted from me to me.
Yep.
Right? So what I can do is I can switch over here, and I can do kind of a twofold solution to this. Inside of on the transfer, I can go and say, validate anti-forgery token. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the IntelliSense there, represents an attribute that is used to detect whether a server request has been tampered with. So I just add that. That's part of system.web.mvc. And that token is being applied to this. So the transfer knows about that. But I have to do both sides of this, right?
Yes.
Because it's a round trip kind of a thing. So inside of my, my form here, I can go and say HTML dot anti-forgery token.
You're going to want to...
Let me do it, output it?
Yeah, you want to output that, yes.
Okay. Do I do it like this, like that?
Colon.
This.
From now on, use colon.
So colon is the way.
Colon's the way.
That is the way to do it.
Yes.
So I'll say anti-forgery token generates a hidden form field, okay, that is validated when the form is submitted. Very cool. All right? And hopefully I'll be able to run this and see it.
Yeah.
Right? And check it out. So let's go ahead and run our site. Back over here. And let's go back to the, I'll be back at the home. There we go. Let's do a view source. It's view state. Microsoft! No, what is that really?
So what you're seeing there is it is not view state.
It's view state in MVC.
And not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with view state.
So what you're seeing here is a request verification token. It's a cryptographically secure hash, or base64 encoded value that we put in the form that we also issue in your cookie. And so what happens is when he submits this form, we'll see the hidden input. The cookie will also be passed along. We'll validate that those two match, and then we'll know that the form hasn't been tampered with. So this is relying on the fact that for my attack, there's no way for me to know what the value is in that hidden input. Mm-hmm. I can't crack open the cookie either. All right? This is all running in his browser. Now, if his browser is compromised in other ways, for example, a faulty plugin that allows cross-site gets, or any number of bugs in the browser, then all bets are off. There are even easier attacks. This won't work against those.
You're effectively saying that an untrusted client,
yeah,
an untrusted browser, a browser that's not one that you feel is going to protect you from this,
yeah,
all bets are off.
Yes. But in this case, he's using IE, which is a trusted browser. So
okay, this was output to the HTML. The secret was handed to the client.
Yes.
I still know about it.
Uh-huh.
It's in the cookie, and we're going to do the post back and then look at the code on the controller, and he knows to go look for this token.
Yes.
And if it's not there and things don't match up, not okay.
Yep.
It's not a GUID. It's a cryptographically significant secret.
Yes.
Hash. All right? Cool. So let's go and check it out. Chocolate rain.
And so what you see there is that now he's getting an error message saying, hey, somebody's trying to hack you.
Exactly. Not okay, my friend. All right. So now that I feel good about this, I've made things safe here at the Haack Bank and Casino. I'm going to start getting into some of the more JavaScript stuff. I think that maybe I'm doing things wrong and I want to go in a totally different direction. I'm going to start returning JSON, and then I'll do some templating on the client side like we saw this morning. I'll return the data and then let the browser do the work. So I've made an admin balances here, and this is going to go and run through the accounts, and it'll output a nice JSON array. This anonymous type is going to get serialized by the JSON helper, and it'll spit it out. And then I'll let people use GET requests because I'm going to want to pull this over with JavaScript and then maybe do something cool with jQuery. So I'm feeling pretty good about this way of doing things. It's straightforward. There's no weird posty data thing.
All right. So this is the one second.
Just switch over.
Yeah, we're still on the banking side, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We're still in Vegas, Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we?
Yes.
Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, so I'm logged in as my account, and I view, let's say through some means, we haven't built the client that actually consumes this JSON. This is just data that we're sending out via a request. But I find out about this. What was the name?
Admin balances.
Admin, oh, that was it, right? Home/.
Admin balances.
Okay, so I noticed that he's sending this JSON information in response to a GET request.
Right.
So that is, unfortunately, a very bad idea.
Dude, everyone's been telling me to use Ajax. It's like the new hotness. And here I am. You know, you do a GET. It's like RESTful or whatever, dude.
So what?
That was my Restafarian voice. I'm like, hey, man.
It's all REST.
It's all REST, dude. I'm doing a GET. It's good.
So
that's how the Restafarians talk.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is a kind of a variation of what we just saw earlier with the CSRF attack, which is I'm going to create a page that's going to allow me to get access to his data. So what I have here is, oh, I'm missing it. So I'm actually going to go into my server. I don't know how I forgot this, man. Can you stall while I do this?
What are you doing?
I'm going to show the code live. So I'm showing you where I'm actually hosting these files from my attack.
That's totally fine, dude. I've got a baby dancing to Beyonce. So it's, it's all good, brother. No, I don't know the moves. Don't
all right,
even,
let's
no.
switch back. Sorry to subject you to that. Okay. So what we have here is, I'm going to cut and paste this into my local machine just so we can get that nice syntax highlighting. I'll just take this one. Oops. Let's add a new page. So I was just showing you where I've deployed these onto a live site so that you can actually run these demos against my site and try them out, or deploy the same files to yours. What am I looking for? HTML page. There we go. So this one is a little tricky, but I'll try to describe it. The key part here is the scripts, where I have this bit of code here where I'm going to get these balances, and I'm going to update these divs with this value. But the real part that's interesting here is this line of code right here. So I'm using sort of a not as well known feature of JavaScript, where I'm going to define the setter of the ID property. So if we looked at the JSON that he's sending, there's an ID property and there's a balance property.
Right, because I made an anonymous type.
Yep.
And I added ID and I added balances. And then I used standard JSON serialization technique. So it's going to come out curly brace, ID, colon, and it seemed reasonable at the time, right?
Yep. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redefine the setter. So anytime an ID is set on an object, it's going to call my function. Now all I need to do is get his script loaded. So what I do is I add the script, type equals text/JavaScript, and I have the source to that JSON script. Now all I need to do is get him to view my page. Well, as we know, it doesn't take much to get Scott to click on a link that's sent to him.
Just send me babies dancing, and it's all good. So then my good friend Phil sends me a picture of a baby dancing to Beyonce. This is so hilarious. Oh, Phil, you and your silly videos. So we're actually in Chrome right now. I think this is Chrome version 4. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, for whatever reason, this is the only browser that we could find that had this problem. In IE, if I did the same thing, you'll just see an empty page. Because it's that act of redefining the setter that's not allowed. Right? Yep. It's not okay to do that. So what he's done is he's taken what is effectively a struct that just had a bunch of fields. He's added properties. And then at the time when those get set by the larger JavaScript engine, he's going to do other JavaScript. Because the goal in most of these attacks is to literally inject JavaScript into any opportunity you have to effectively do, I think, what they call an eval. Right? Anytime you can get the engine to evaluate some code, you can run around. Because JavaScript doesn't have any sense of scope when it comes to I am running within a setter, I really not ought to be allowed to do this kind of thing. Plus, he's using the dynamic aspects of JavaScript to redefine the behaviors of what I thought was a very kind of reasonable looking bunch of JSON.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Well, so there's a couple things. One is that the only reason this attack works is because I was able to reference that script. Let me switch back. Through a script tag. So when I call, when I use this source equals blah, 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 that thing, the browser issues a GET request for that script, and we return back some JSON. Now, there's another aspect of this is that JSON that he's returning back is an array. And so this is an important point because an array just turns out to be valid JavaScript, a valid JavaScript file. Whereas if he had returned anything else, anything that's not an array, this attack would not have worked because he would have gotten a syntax error when you try to reference a script that's not a valid JavaScript. So there's two things going bad for him is that A, he's returning an array, and B, he's returning in response to a GET. So let's look at the first fix, or the GET.
Yeah. So we'll switch back over here, and we'll notice that when I return that JSON, I said allow GET. Because it seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
So I could just change that literally to deny GET. Remember that I said script source equals, and that allows the browser to automatically do a GET and automatically include the JavaScript. And by virtue of the fact that it did that include, the action, the doing of work was implicit. This is why people say don't take action on a GET. You kind of hear that a lot when people are talking about building AJAX applications. Now here I've had to switch this to deny GET. What is the default?
The default in MVC2 is now deny GET. So he could just omit that argument. If you have existing MVC1 code that returns JSON, this is a break and change that we made for security reasons. And I know some people have been bitten by that when upgrading. There's multiple workarounds you can do, but just be aware that the default is to deny GET.
I was trying to do the Windows 7.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime I can do that, I'm like, yeah, Windows 7. So here, I just said return JSON, which would be what I would ordinarily do. And like you said, before this would have been a problem, but now it's not a problem. So even though I am returning an array, which might not be the best idea,
Yep.
At least this is happening only on posts. No one can do any kind of a remote include.
Yep. Now, one mitigation that a lot of people talk about is, well, why don't you just set, what's it called? Cache expiration on the file so that it has, and verify the request, the GET request, right? So a couple things that are interesting about this is if he's visited admin this URL already. Let me switch over.
Now wait a second. Is this a picture? Is this a video?
I don't know.
Is this an actual email from American Express?
I think that's an actual email.
Okay. Whew.
But I wouldn't trust it. So if he's ever visited this URL before, this attack may still be successful because that file is going to be cached in the browser. So when he visits my page, the browser won't even make a request to the server. So doing validation on the server saying, oh, is this person allowed to make this request, is not enough in that case because the browser will go to the cache. Cache headers should work in theory. If I said do not cache this file, that should work in theory, except it depends how much you trust every single proxy server along the way from your customers to your server, right? If the browser's faulty, if any of these proxy servers are faulty and serve up the file from the cache, even in violation of the cache headers, you've got a problem. Post is the only way that you're absolutely secure that none of these proxy servers are going to serve up that file and expose your data or even cache the data in the first place.
So does that, let's switch over to this side. So what is the best practice then? Because other than scaring me, I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to have a paralysis. do I make sure that I have HTTP post on all my JSON methods, or do I just make sure that I just return JSON and this post is implied?
I would do the second approach. I would just return JSON. The post is implied.
Know that this exists.
Yep.
Right. Know that I can. You know, if I needed to open it up, I could.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is if you absolutely must return sensitive data to a GET request. Again, when you imply GET, that means that servers can cache that. Set the cache headers to not cache, and change what you're returning to not be an array. So if you're familiar with ASP.NET as a MIX web services, for example, you can do this /JS on the end of the URL of the web service, and we generate this JavaScript proxy. And the JSON that we send back from as a MIX services, you'll notice that everything is in a property that's named D. I could not find out why we called it D and not C or S or anything else.
Data.
But, oh, okay, that's a good one. So the property is named D for data. I'll take his word for that. And that's just by default with ASP.NET, so that you never return an array, even if your actual return type's an array in C#. So just a bit of trivia.
So is that something that I could potentially do here? Could I say select new and then wrap that and make like D or really anything? D is just like, it could be X, like you said.
Yep.
So walk me through the class of different things that we've talked about and how I could potentially save myself, because now I'm afraid that you're going to get me somehow. Right? Do I want to use, for example, the anti-forgery tokens all the time? Is this something that I want to? Is there a way to turn that on always, or is that overkill?
So the anti-forgery token depends. Security is sort of a matter of degrees, right? It's how important is it to secure your data? How important is the data? How much is it exploitable? If you're building a site, for example, that you intend people to post to in order to do mashups, and you're not exposing data that is, requires that extreme security, then you might not want to use the validate anti-forgery token, because then other people can't post to that action. Once you set the validate anti-forgery token, only your site can post to those action methods. I would use validate the anti-forgery tokens anytime there's any user data that could be exposed otherwise. So
I think the definition of a hack is causing any kind of unintended effect that the programmer didn't expect. I did not intend you to ever do that to my coupon code. So you have to think about any time user data comes in to your system. What are you doing with it? How does it, what happens to it? We know about the basics things, about someone going in a text box and putting in script and then posting that back and then outputting that information to the web. And we know about the basics of things like HTML encoding. But then, where does data come from? User data sometimes comes from other databases we've had trouble with. In the past, for example, I've seen situations where someone would take a legacy database full of lots of information, lots of people's names, and then you come upon a name that someone put in the database from another system that is itself an attack, almost like taking like a prehistoric bug and saving it in amber, right? The database, especially if you didn't control how the data got into it, is itself a user input problem. Apparently I'm missing a meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this business, because banking is really, really not happening for me. I think I may even stop clicking things from you. Instead, I'm going to go into a completely wide open field, and I'm going to start a questions and answers site, because I think that this is a space that hasn't been solved in the world, and that more and more people need some kind of a place that they could go, a sense of community to ask questions and like vote on them.
Yeah, that'd be great if there was such a thing.
It's a unique opportunity. I quit. So here's Hack Overflow, and apparently people think this has been a copy of something. I'm not sure. I'm going to hit Edit in here, and you can see that I've got the same kind of high-quality user interface that you can you're used to. A lot of work and a lot of kind of UI A/B testing has been done.
Yes.
We actually did some focus groups to find out. It was basically men our age who are us is really our focus. Our focal group on this particular this thing. So you can see me editing a question, and I can go and hit submit, and it's an application. It works. Cool.
Cool.
And this is something, of course, that Phil could look at on the wire himself. So if you wanted to use a tool like Fiddler, do you have Fiddler?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. If you're not familiar with Fiddler, it's a fantastic application from Eric Lawrence on the IE team, and you can get it, I think, at fiddler2.com. Mm-hmm. So you're going to visit Haack Overflow.
Yep. So what I'm going to do now is look at this edit form. And you notice here that we have this number of views, right? And it says 0. And when I go to the edit form, I don't see views as a hidden input there. And I really want to get my questions up to the top. I want let's say that these questions are ranked by number of views. And as they get more views, they get more prominent. And maybe someday I'll allow people to have advertising or whatever. But in any case, I'm noticing that this form only has these 3 fields. But I have this suspicion that there's other fields that could be submitted. So I'm going to...
Did we see the view source already?
Oh, yeah, let's view source.
So since we know that this is written in ASP.NET MVC, let's zoom on that.
Yeah, control.
We see ID title, type title. It seems very logical.
Yeah.
What are some other things that we could potentially cheat?
So if I suspect that this site is being built with MVC, I'm going to start a process of guessing what fields might be on this object that they're binding to submit this form. And so I saw that there's this views. So I'm going to take a wild stab and say that maybe I can post to views. So what I'm going to do here is submit this query first, and now I have Fiddler open.
Right. So we'll slow down for a second, and we see that there are places where we've done a get and places where we've done a post, and he's basically using TiVo for HTTP to see what's going on. He's recorded himself, and now he's going to go and look at what actually was posted. So he's double-clicked on that, and he can see. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that.
Yeah, it's window
plus. Go.
Cool.
So this is what came back. Let's look at what was sent.
Oh, yeah. So I need to go back here. Is it this one?
Double-click.
Oh.
And then you have to make everybody nauseous by moving around as much as possible.
Sorry about that. Let's get the raw. So I can't see what. There it is. Sorry.
Actually, hit text view. There you go.
Okay.
So remember that a post looks a lot like a URL because it really is. I mean, it's a URI encoded piece of information. It's name value pairs. We've got title is, votes equals, body equals. A lot of people don't really realize that. I've seen people spend months and years in web development and forget what the post looked like because it gets hidden from us.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that with MVC, your action method takes in this question, this fully hydrated object. And you forget that at the underlying core, it's just name value pairs that we happen to map to that object. So what I'm going to do is build my own request based on this one. Whoops. So let me zoom out to do this real quick. So where's that? There it is, inspector. So I'm going to copy this. In fact, I want the raw. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to use the request builder where I can create my own request. Parse. There it is. So what I need to do is in the request body, I'll just cut and paste the existing one. And I'll add views equals 1,000. Do you know why that's red?
It's your demo.
Okay.
You're on your own, man.
Oh, there it is.
I opened a bank, brother.
I know why, because I hadn't
anymore.
changed it to... Let's close that. Let's find the form. So now I just need the form URL there. So grab that. Actually, it's edit.
Is this what they call, is this what they're talking about when they say script kiddies?
Yeah.
They're basically kind of poking around doing this. And basically, poking it. You can look, if you run any large websites, you've probably done this. You've looked at the logs in IIS and you've seen, what is this? Command.com, what is this guy trying to do, right? Anything that they possibly can to cause your application to behave in a way you didn't intend it.
Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I've looked at the underlying HTTP traffic. I saw that we're doing this post and we're posting this data. So I've cut and pasted that information into the Fiddler UI. So here's the URL I'm going to post to.
So to be clear, this is now an untrusted browser. Is that fair to say?
I trust it, but
but I don't trust. You're browsing the web effectively now with Fiddler. So this is now an untrusted browser.
Exactly. So what I'm doing is, it's very common to think that, well, if I only have an input on my form for this field, that nobody can post other values that I didn't have an input for, and that's obviously not the case.
You're effectively over-posting.
Yes, I'm over-posting. I'm changing the underlying data that's going to get posted to the form. So I added this property, this name value thing, views equals 1,000, and now with Reflector, I can just call execute.
Fiddler.
Fiddler, I can just call it.
Reflector's awesome too.
What did I call it? And what happened there? We got an application error.
Cool.
Row not found or changed.
Is it views or view?
Did I do that wrong? Oh, what's the name of the property?
Views.
All right, let's try it one more time. So I said views
Remember
equals
the definition of insanity.
post. Yeah,
Doing
no.
the same thing and expecting a different result. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun,
Uh-oh.
dun, 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 dun.
Demo gods are not happy with me today. Is row not found or changed? Oh, we have a change conflict exception.
Oh, what, did I change the database? I don't know.
So what the error we're getting is an EF error, which is that this thing where I thought I turned off, I'm not using concurrency, but for some reason it's suddenly on, and I swear to you this worked a minute ago, but
It's okay. We'll just try it over here.
let's try it on yours. Let's try it on yours. Since yours, yeah, yours is working, so let's try it on yours.
Let's find out.
Are we switched over?
This is called not sticking the landing. That's what this is called.
Yeah.
Right?
So we'll just have Hanselman hack himself here.
Kippy, you can do it. Shake it off, Kippy. You can stick the landing.
What the hell?
No one gets any of my pop culture references. People are on. Who picked this putz to be on this show? What's wrong with this kid? So I'm in Fiddler here, and we're watching all this stuff happening in the background. And we'll go and we'll say, poo, hit submit. Okay.
Now, okay, so here's a Fiddler trick for you.
Oh, yeah. I'm a local host.
You need to add a dot at the end, localhost dot colon.
Other things that you can do is you can say, I think, fiddler.ipv4.
That'll work too.
Or you could say, which is actually right, ipv4.fiddler.
Yeah.
Which is even like even better because it works.
All right, let's click at it and let's
Poo-poo. All right. And there's our post.
There you go.
And I'm just going to switch over here. And you said request builder.
Yeah. So now what you need to do is go to Request Builder, and Request Builder allows you to build up the request that you want to make to the server. So you'll change it to post.
Okay.
Yeah. Set the URL to /edit.
Say it again.
At the end /edit.
Okay. At the end of this.
Yeah. I believe that was the URL that we're posting to. Yep.
It is, in fact, question/edit.
Yeah. No, that's.
Gonna be like that?
No. Sorry. Go back to the view. Sorry about that. Oh.
I shall go like this.
Why don't we do it that way? What am I doing?
Dude, you're on stage at MIX, baby!
I know.
In the Las Vegas and the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, Phil Haack is going to be going ahead.
Okay, you take
now
over.
I can do it?
Yeah, that's the URL. That's all I wanted to do.
So you're just going to like throw me right into the bus here, right?
See, I type in Dvorak, so I get really nervous when I'm on a QWERTY keyboard. It's like, oh shoot, all the letters actually correspond to the keys I press.
If I had
can't
a
deal
nickel
with that.
for every time I said, I'm sorry, it's QWERTY, I'm sorry. I'm helpless. These hands, they don't work. You use the QWERTY excuse. Views. So
there we go.
when this totally doesn't work, then what do we do?
Then
Good night, everybody. Try the veal. Tip your waitresses, people.
All right, that looked like that succeeded.
Change conflict exception was unhandled by user code. Same thing, dude.
I'm at a loss.
Ay, Dios mío.
So in any case, what should have happened there?
So the idea is this, and again, very sad, but the idea is this. In ASP.NET MVC.
I know what we can do. Let's set a breakpoint. We can at least show the data is there and then fix it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because this is an EF issue. It's not a...
Or it's not an issue with EF. It's an issue with my code using EF.
So it's your issue.
It's my fault.
Right.
I take full responsibility.
It's very nice of you to do that. So the point that Phil's making...
Well, my job doesn't depend on doing these talks well.
Yeah, but mine does, so thanks for that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And views is 0.
Okay, I am...
Ooh, let's see if we can entertain the people even longer. Let's go over to questions.
Did you submit that with... did you submit that using the Fiddler too?
Yeah, dude.
And it was 0?
Oh, yeah. What's that? Underscore views.
No.
No. So here's the deal. Let me just go ahead and explain how this is supposed to work, and then we'll all pretend that it did. Can we do that? Because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So
yeah.
As far as we're concerned, and for the 3 million people that will watch this online, the issue is this. Where's views? Title, body, views. Okay. This object has views and votes and all these different things. There's a public property called views. Views takes an int. This edit method here, it uses HTTP post, and we do what's called model binding. We say, hey, question.views, hey, there's a views in this name value pair collection. And it's basically a form post deserializer.
Yeah.
Right? So it's taking the form post, and it's doing what's called model binding, and it's turning it into this here. It's turning into a question. So if I had person.firstname and person.lastname, on the form post side, I could have input ID equals first name and input ID equals last name.
Yep.
So the idea is that you overpost and try to inject stuff into question. Because I haven't said anything to MVC other than figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a number of things that'll fit on top of that, like this binding. Talk to me about binding attribute.
So put it on the argument.
On the argument itself.
Yeah. So
okay.
The key point here is that you want to restrict what values get set on this object. So if you're model binding to this question object, every property that's public on that object is open game. And so what we want to do is 2 approaches. One is we just set the bind attribute to say include a whitelist, as he's doing, that says these are the only properties from the form that I want you to set on this object. Anything else I want you to ignore. An alternate approach is simply to not use your actual domain object and use a model that's specific to the view that only has the properties that you want to be bound to.
Right.
And that way, that's what you might call a form input model. So that way, that object only has the properties you want to allow set, and any other properties that someone's fiddling around with Fiddler would get ignored.
This actually brings up an interesting thing from an ASP.NET MVC architecture perspective, is you hear talk about views and models and view models. And a lot of people think about view models as output things. Someone is going to say, well, I want this view to render some data, a little bit of questions, a little bit of answers. So I'll make a view model that has, like Phil said, just the information that we need. And I'll put it out there. And for most people, that's where view model stops. That's view model out. What I'm hearing you say is that, and interestingly, the bug that we're having is that something in our database code is rejecting this, right? If we had basically had a question edit in, a view model in, that wasn't a database, wasn't anything specific to what's going on in our entity framework model, but was basically a serialized version of the form, then this would not have been possible.
Right, exactly. And so that's often for a highly secure site, that's what we would recommend, is not sending your actual domain objects in and out, but use a separate model that's specific to the view that gives you extra security. Use the bind attribute if necessary. And most of all, I mean, the key point of all these talks is do not trust user input.
Cool. So that's our talk, and we'll probably put all the details about this. I think some of these are up on your blog
yeah, and I'll
already.
make sure that all these samples work when we post it to our blog. So apologize for that last one, but I think you get the point.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Las Vegas, and.